I guess just go for it. One thing that I keep coming back to as both a writer and an editor and a person is just like go for it and just do the thing that you want to do.
Welcome to Ilia Epifanov, author, developmental editor, and soon to be a publisher, and many more things. He's going to introduce himself, but he's here in Join The Playful Revolution to talk about his book and many other things. Ilia, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, yes, for having me. I'm Ilia, as has been mentioned. I am an author of Crescent Earth, which is a sci-fi book, a sci-fi adventure murder mystery book, a story. And it's a lot of fun. It just published a few months back. A lot of positive things that I've been hearing about it. I think it's pretty good. So
yes, I have enjoyed reading and I recommend it to everyone.
Thank you. Yes, and yeah, I'm a ghostwriter. I write a lot of mystery and romance and sci-fi. And as a developmental editor, I also edit a lot of fiction, help authors get their first drafts in. Yeah, that's the short version.
Okay, that's very good. So could you tell us about maybe your book, Crescent Earth, to start? How has it been, the writing journey?
The writing's journey has been a long one. It is a story that has been with me since high school, I want to say, so like 10, 12, 13 years at this point. So I've been working a lot on it very actively the past 2 or 3 years, just writing a lot of outlining, a lot of starting and stopping and ditching it. And yeah, the last like year and a half, I've been working actively on the series because it is going to be a series of books. And the first one released in August after a year of work. It's been fun, challenging, but yeah, very satisfying in the end.
It sounds like the bamboo tree, the Chinese bamboo tree story. It's like it's been 10 years in the making and suddenly it flourished. But I know as a writer, it's not your first book. So can you tell us a bit more about other stuff you've written before?
Yeah, so I've actually like started writing when I was in high school, like a lot of people, just like short stories and whatnot, and just like scribbles and journaling. I did write a book when I was 22, which was self-published through just a horrible vanity press, wherein you pay a bunch of money and they publish your book. And it was not a great book, but I just wanted to do it. I'm glad that I did. A lot of lessons learned. But yeah, that was not great. I think I published a couple that way. Then I moved into comic books a little bit and wrote a bunch of indie comics. Kind of wasn't my thing, really. I realized I enjoyed prose more, just writing fiction. But also, so this was around 2015, I want to say, right? So that realization coupled with wanting to do this for a job and work writing fiction specifically, not copywriting, not ads for anything, or not scripts for, I don't know, YouTube videos, but writing books, telling stories. So that's how I sort of fell into ghostwriting. Found out a bunch of gigs online, applied, started writing romance books, erotica, really bordering on just like very bad smut. Again, fun experience, not something I would read, but it was a fun, and I wrote, I don't know, 24 of those maybe.
Wow, that's good schooling for speed and method, I guess, and process.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as having to write a certain amount of words in a certain amount of time. So normally that would be 30,000 words or 35,000 words in a matter of 4 to 6 weeks.
That's quite fast.
Yeah, so that's been fun. Then from there, I moved on to more mystery and sci-fi, so less sex, more murder, I guess, which is also has been fun and I've enjoyed. Those are certainly more my genres as a reader. So it's been a really good experience of sort of just all the fun of writing without all the headaches of trying to promote it and publish it and take it to the next thing. So ghostwriting is, to me, like a very valuable experience for a writer. And it definitely helped me as well with my book when I finally sort of committed to it, working through the program, which I don't know if you want to talk more about Creators Institute and all that we can, part of it.
That was part of the next question, because
absolutely.
Well,
but
since you prompted, we met through the Creators Institute where I
yes.
created my book, and Ilia was my developmental editor. And as a developmental editor, I saw my first encounter is that you were very young. I'm not sure how old you are, but quite young. But you have lots of books in your belt, so that's a lot of experience. And you also help not only non-fiction writers like myself,
yes,
other fiction writers, which for which your experience was probably very translatable. But still, I was going to ask you if you want to explain a little bit more about the program and your role as a developmental editor and what involves coaching other people to create books in this case, but to create in general.
Yeah, so the Creator Institute / New Degree Press is a writing / publishing program. There's a lot that goes into it. It's a hybrid publisher, which, where do we start? I guess for the sake of keeping it short, right? You work with a developmental editor for 5 months on your first draft, and then you move on to publishing, which there's crowdfunding involved, there's revisions involved with a different editor. It's a whole thing. You're going basically through the whole publishing process with an editorial team, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's very helpful, especially for first-time authors, to get the experience of what publishing a book actually involves. And I don't really want to touch on like whether hybrid publishing is less or more than traditional publishing. That's a whole different, we can do an hour just on that probably, and people have done. So I'm on the developmental side as a developmental editor. So I work with you, the author, on your first draft. So from conception to just a very rough first draft of your book. And it varies from author to author, from like students to student. Some people come in with already first draft, in which case I go through the whole thing and we talk about, structure and character and dialogue and all those elements. Or you come in with just an idea of, hey, I want to write about this. And then we start writing, and then we start talking about it and figuring out. Sometimes we start figuring out, well, what the hell is it that you want to write? And sometimes my role is just to listen to you and help you get your ideas out and structure them and arrange them to arrive at that first draft. So that's what my job involves. A lot of reading books, a lot of notes, a lot of conversations.
Yeah, well, for those who probably are new to this, I came to the program with an idea about what I wanted to write, but it was nonfiction. And one of the things I needed to learn was to write stories. In that case, your particular background was very helpful to help me kind of structure some stories within the book, which, funnily enough, is the part that makes the book more readable rather than dry facts and very essay-like style that most people who come to nonfiction might expect from their own books. So the added of this is very good. And the other thing about the program is the first 5 months is write the draft. It's almost like a course in book writing. And the second part is book publishing, which is a whole world as well. And you are not committed to publishing if you don't want to. But the 5 months with the help of a coach, one of the things they encourage the most is to keep regular meetings with the developmental editor.
Yes.
And I remember in some of them, I just turned up with maybe my cries like, oh, I'm stuck with this and crying about it. And maybe have a laugh about the whole thing, because you can find many funny moments in this.
Yes.
It's a creative process. Nobody can have any doubts about that. But I'm not sure about the playful part of it, because it can be painful. Some things are enjoyable. What do you find in general in the author population? Do people have fun with it? Or what parts do people enjoy the most or can be more playful with?
I would definitely say though, there's a lot of stress involved, like with any project, especially a project that you're not getting paid for, and this is your passion project, whether it be even if it is something you're doing for work, right? A lot of people come in and they want to write a book, not to sell 1 million copies, but to have it on sort of their resume. You know, I wrote a book on this thing in my professional field. Cool. But even with that sort of project that has a very specific, like, pragmatic goal, there's still a lot of stress to deliver the thing, right, and to do it justice, and so a lot of stress, of course, but it is a creative process still. And as you mentioned, we have fun on the calls. That's my favorite part always, is those weekly meetings where we can just spin our wheels, and you can tell me a bunch of stories, I can tell you a bunch of stories, and we just have fun with it. And yeah, I guess that's the relief of it. And then it's back to the serious, the stressful of the writing. And I guess it's different for everyone. I've worked with authors who just have the most fun writing, and they will just write and write and write, and is the best. And others who will, and I myself like that as a writer, I need to talk to someone to talk through it, organize my thoughts, have them sort of arranged like that, spit them out, and then I can write. As far as, so that's, I guess, the creative part. I'm not sure we like play as much with it. I mean, we can gamify obviously certain things, but more often than not, I notice that can just induce more stress. You know, if I were to tell you like, hey, let's both write 3 chapters this week, and then on Friday I'm like, hey, I wrote it, I'm already done with it, and you're only in chapter 1, then you might just feel more stressed, and it's not really conductive to it. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Hey, no,
if
I
there's
was
a
just
different
thinking.
part of
I
it.
was just thinking is it can be a painful process. You can add enjoyable moments to it.
Yes.
In the case of nonfiction, I mean, writing has different phases, and we did interviews, and I quite enjoy them, and have, I mean, because it depends on the personalities you are interviewing, and some of them might
Yes.
elicit laughter, and you can just enjoy the interaction. It can be you can get fun moments and funny moments. I was thinking I wrote a book about play, but it wasn't very playful for me at the time.
Yeah.
It had been in the parts where I have personal experience implementing and organizing playful situations, even humor in the day-to-day. I mean, it's something like start with goodbye instead of good morning or something. I don't know. I embed humor and playfulness in my daily life, but not in the writing process. But I wrote the book about things I have done about play. So, but
Yes.
I had to, you know, they just shift modes. I'm in focus mode now. I need to concentrate, so I'm not laughing. I get quite a very serious face when I'm concentrating. Like,
Of course.
I might be writing about play, but my face might be more of a murderer type at some point, especially if I'm in a deadline. So it's just a paradox, but it's well,
Yes.
an interesting point to make.
Yeah. Well, I would say as an editor, like the profession of being an editor, especially a developmental editor, to me is fun and creative, because both authors and their drafts and even like particular chapters, they're like a puzzle to me. So even if I get a chapter that is not well written, or it's missing, I don't know, there's a chapter and there's 0 dialogue or something, it's to me like a puzzle. Okay, how do I make this better, right? How do I take this? And you know, I'll cry and I plead when I read it, and my wife will attest to this. I'll tell her all about it. But in the end, it's the challenge of, okay, this is a horrible chapter. How do we make this better, right? And both through my notes and conversations with the author, we figure it out. And it's very satisfying to then see, okay, this was this horrible chapter, and then we tinkered with it, and it came out on the other end as part of this great book. And same goes for authors. People are all different, right? And like with anything, you need to find your approach. And okay, how do I make this person who's overthinking everything?
Yeah.
How do I make them not stress out about it and just write?
And how do you make it?
That is a good question. That is a good, I mean, conversations, honestly, with whatever the challenge is, you listen to people, you listen to their concerns. and you try to offer advice, whether it be my personal experience as a writer or my experience with other authors who've gone through similar things. It's all in that finding the key of like, okay, what do you need to not stress about this? Do you need to have an outline? Let's do an outline. Do you need to just not worry about anything, or do you need to not even worry about the program you're going for? A lot of people, and this is again going back to New Degree Press, as you mentioned, it is a writing course that offers a lot of templates and different structures to pick from and different documents. There's hundreds of documents on whatever aspect of writing you need. And it can be overwhelming, especially for a first-time author, right? You come in, suddenly you're given 20 chapter structures to pick from. And some people just shut down, right? It's like, I don't know how to read these. I don't know if they're useful. I don't want to force my material into any of these structures. And then the answer is then just don't look at them. Don't worry about it.
They are
just
supposed
do
to
your
help
thing.
you.
Yeah.
No, it's a handheld process. Actually, I enjoy it in that sense, especially the accountability factor and the community as well. Meeting other authors. I got interviews from other authors. Some of the authors have interviewed me. I interviewed people that turn up for the speaker nights, like speakers. So it's a very a rich environment to create a book and to not feel lonely. And having a developmental editor helps with all this. Like, and you just say, ignore it, don't worry. That's the role. Yes. So it's been fantastic, by the way. So I recommend everyone your services.
I'm glad it's helpful.
I really enjoyed your cheerleading as well as your advice. Now, your book, you're into science fiction in particular, and one of I removed one section of my book that was talking about designing futures. That's the prospective design, future design. Actually, you write about the future. You create future. So what's the process like? Because I've done it from a different standpoint, and I would like to know what the process in the creative profession, I mean, science fiction, has existed way before anybody in business was designing futures. Actually, many people doing this actually draw information and ideas from science fiction. So what's your particular process to create a future environment?
That is, of course, a loaded question.
Specifics
goes into it. Like broadly, I guess, but also with specifics. This book is not hard science fiction, so I didn't do a lot of research into laws of physics, and part of it takes place on the moon. I didn't do that much research into, well, realistically, where would we put a base on the moon, or where would we get water? Like, I wasn't as concerned with it. The story called for a base on the moon. Boom, there's a base on the moon in one of the craters. Go. That's not, again, not hard science fiction. So I don't do that much research again into like the real world. Some, but most of it does not really get play in this story. So I usually go by feel, and one of my goals with this was to create a world that is ordinary and mundane in this book, in the sense that, because to me, science fiction, obviously there's a lot of like fantastical things, right? Technology is magic, so on and so forth. But if we think of even like the world of today versus the world of 25 years ago, right? We have smartphones and laptops and all these magical technologies, and your smartphone that costs like $500 can take amazing pictures and connect you to anyone, anywhere in the world, so on and so forth. But we're not really amazed by it. It's like, yeah, we all have phones, and we check whatever Facebook and Instagram on it, and that's about it. But to a person in the 90s, that would be incredible, and they probably wouldn't believe you. Like, really, that's a thing, and nobody really cares about it. And that was the sense that I wanted to create when it came to technology, where, yeah, there are these magical things and all the sci-fi tropes of like holograms and whatnot, but it's not incredible or amazing. It's just told to you as, yeah, that's just a feature of this.
It's like a toothbrush,
world.
Just something that happens to be there.
Which I'm not claiming to have invented this approach, but that was my sort of idea with it, where to the people in whatever 21, 25, which is when the book is set, those things would not be amazing. They'd just be using them, and it's fine.
Daily
So,
items, yeah. And just one question is for example, you are creating, your book is a kind of a murder story, basically, or murder mystery story type. You create that story and then you decide, okay, I'm going to place it in that time. Therefore, I need to decorate it with these things. So murder mystery, there is a gun, there is an assassin, there is a, then you translate that to the tech and the, or do you design the environment first and then create the story? What goes first, the environment or the story?
Story comes first, and then I populate it with what I find interesting. Again, following that logic of everything is magical, but also not that magical, because on a different level, the world of today isn't as different from the world of 100 years ago. There are cars on the streets, there are houses, and unlike, science fiction of the 60s, the buildings that we have are not, 1,000 kilometers or whatever tall, or hundreds, thousand stories tall, I guess. It would be more appropriate. But so it is the same, but it's different. So I start not with, I don't know, a magical technological murder weapon, right? But rather, somebody gets killed, and then around it, things are slightly different and more futuristic. But at the end, it's still a person gets killed in a house in Santa Barbara. And it's, you strip away the sci-fi and it can take place anywhere. Yeah. So
universal.
I mean, there is a base on the moon as that was an environment, I guess, that I created before. But even then, it's only when I was writing the scenes on the moon when I really started to, okay, what does this look like? What would this base look like? And it's a bunch of domes with screens and whatnot. So yeah, story first. To me, the world and its aspects like that come after.
And I assume you document yourself with the technology from either other science fiction items or from movies.
Of course, a lot of it is inspiration.
You don't go hard on inventing technology or devices, right? It's just, okay, if it's been invented before, we can use it. People are familiar with it. I'm not going out of my way to include some new concept for this. I mean, the most novel, I guess, thing to me, at least, because it is a time travel story as well. I didn't want to say, but that was the interesting part.
It is a time travel story, and the time machine is a flying saucer, like the traditional UFO saucer shaped thing. Like that's, and even then, I did not invent it. I'm sure it's been hypothesized before. So again, I don't go out of my way to invent new things, but if I think that, oh, this would be cool if this was a thing, I'll go for it and not think about that twice.
Well, I can tell you that science fiction is very inspirational for all the types that are not that creative. And then we can just place ourselves in that future and say, okay, and now what are other daily problems we have? How do we pay for things? There was something about a card and payment. I come from that industry. So I was like, I'm curious about how do you do this? But it didn't quite say it. So like, but I'm sure doctors would say, how do you heal? Or, what's surgery like? And everyone will come with their own thing, imagining these things. But you set up the stage and everybody can bring their business or industry knowledge into it to design a possible future. How do you call dystopia, utopia?
Utopia, hopefully.
Yeah. But you create those environments, see the challenges, and then see how to solve them. So it helps you plan ahead. Of course, 100 years ahead is too far, but 100 years, 30 years, just thinking about it will give you some insights that you can use for today anyway. Sometimes, not all of them, but is thinking out of the box, but out of the time, in a time frame, which is very appropriate, in particular related to your book.
That's the thing. Sorry to cut you off. That's the thing with sci-fi, right? People hypothesize things, and then some of them come true inevitably.
Yeah, but
Star Trek predicted iPads in like the 60s. There's a famous episode, or not iPads. iPads was 2001: A Space Odyssey. They have iPads on that station. And like that would have been impossible back then, but now it's
everything is.
it's just
If you
on
can
my
imagine
table.
it, you can
Who
create
cares?
it as well. Yeah, it's like, oh, that was cool. I want one, and then they create it. So
Yes.
you inspired many techie people to actually create things. But talking about the future, and it's almost kind of going back to the end of the questionnaire. We mentioned before in private that you would like to maybe become a publisher or something. So where are you heading? What do you see? What are your plans in the short term and in the long term in your writing creative career?
Well, in the short term, I am working on the sequel to this book. Hopefully will be published sometime late this year, early next year, and a bunch of books after that. And yeah, I mean, I've worked again a lot as a ghostwriter, as a developmental editor. I've been sort of in the industry in a sense for years. So I would like to, in a few years, in maybe 5 years time, make my own thing and publish things that I like to publish and read. And yeah, sort of put that experience also of helping first-time authors get out there and find, interesting new fresh voices and help them take it to that next level of writing first draft, because that's often the hardest thing for a lot of people. They have a brilliant idea, they have an amazing writing style, all those things, but they just can't get past chapter 3 in their brilliant book, and taking that and running with it and putting it out there is, it's on the agenda.
All right, sounds good. Sounds like a lot of writing in the future. Yeah, not only writing about the future, but a lot of writing and writers in the future. And eventually, if you had to leave a legacy behind you, not in 5 years, probably in 100 years, since we are gonna get to live until well, maybe not me, but your generation, to 150 or 120 years old. What about you in 100 years? What lesson would you be teaching your younger great whatever kids?
Ooh, that's
the one
that's
thing.
tough. The one thing is, I guess, just go for it. One thing that I keep coming back to as both a writer and an editor and a person is just like, go for it and just do the thing that you want to do, because there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of pressure all around. Again, going back to first-time authors, especially like younger authors, a lot of pressure to do a certain thing and live a certain life and live it a certain way. And my advice would be just like, the thing that you're really passionate about, speaking of like legacy and things that are worth the time, just go for that, whatever, maybe not whatever the cost, but don't worry about it, because if you go for that thing that you are passionate about, the payoff will be inevitably greater than whatever you're sort of forced into. I mean, not always and not for everyone, probably, but generally speaking, just do the thing.
Just try, at least give it a go. Give it a go.
Yep.
Not if your life depends on it, but like,
the risk reward, I would say, is much greater, especially in long term, so than playing it safe.
That sounds like a wise advice. very, very much a grandpa's advice.
Well, you asked me.
Yes, I know, but I put you in that place, but you played very well because you're quite young, but still, you got some wisdom in you, which is not surprising.
Finally.
Yeah, no, but I think because you have your own journey as well. It's not like you just came out from high school. You've done your things. You have enough time to have your failures and your successes at your own speed or something. It's like, it reminds me, Gary Vaynerchuk, he's saying, are you in your 20s not figure it out? Don't worry, you have plenty time. People have a rush into knowing what they are going to do the rest of their lives at 20. It's like 20 or 30 or 40 or 50. You still have time, or 60. I mean, it's never too late to start doing the things you want, basically. So don't look back, just say, okay, from now on, and we all have today and onwards. Whether that onwards or future is longer or shorter, who cares? But from then on, from today on, you can do whatever you want. So
true. Yeah, the past is sort of irrelevant. So it's done. You can file that away and
except in your book, which got me thinking. I mean, it's quite. Let's say I didn't quite get it. I'm not sure if it's a language thing, but this time thing is interesting that we are going to end in this. But I'll recommend everybody to read your book just to have conversations about time and challenging people to attempt to do what they want. And because in truth, in reality, there is no way going back, but there is always a new future you can create for yourself. Interesting.
Well said.
Well, thank you, Ilia, for coming here. It has been very interesting to learn about your process and to get to know you a little more, because in our conversations before, it's like my book, and we didn't get that chance. But I hope to read more of your series. Just give me informed or alerted when they come up. And people, if you ever want to get published or know about editing, writing, or anything, Ilia is going to be there. I'm going to leave contacts in the video and the comments and the details of the interview. So, do you want to say something to say goodbye to the audience? Final words.
Thank you for having me, and hopefully all that wisdom was wise and helpful. And keep in touch. Reach out if you have any questions or you need help with writing or anything of that sort. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, I think, Instagram as well. Reach out to me. I'll leave all those links with you to share, and I answer to messages. So thank you for having me. Do check out the book as well. That'd be super helpful.
I'll add the link as well.
Please.
Totally recommended, and hopefully we'll get we create a fan base for your series and the sequel. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right then. Thanks.